Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of The Formula, where we break down and explore the elements of achievement in world-class performers. This week's guest is Dan Gable. He is a three-time All-American college wrestler. His combined record between high school and college at Iowa State was 182 wins and 1 loss. He was the 1971 world champion and 1972 Olympic gold medalist. And listen to this part, this is crazy. He didn't surrender a single point at the Olympics. I don't know if you understand how big of a feat that is. Do you understand that? He gave up, for all those wrestlers out there, he gave up no escapes, no reversals, nothing, to the best wrestlers in the entire world. He was named one of the top 100 Olympians of all time. After that, he coached the University of Iowa's wrestling team to 15 NCAA titles, with 9 of those being consecutively. He also coached 45 individual national championships, and he was a 3-time U.S. Olympic head coach. This is one of the most interesting episodes I've done to date, with tons of good information around being around good mentors and good role models, overcoming adversity, and sharing some stories from from Dan's family life and from the mat. I was caught off guard by a few of the things in this episode, and it really has left a lasting impact on me, but I will share my thoughts on that at the end of the show. So without further ado, let's get this thing rolling with Dan Gable.
You need competition, and competition is going to help you throughout your lifetime. And so when you are involved in different activities like they have in the gymnasium or in the swimming pool, you're competing against other people. You're just you're learning at an early age. So from there you go to school, and maybe you're not a big academic person, but if you can get close to a teacher that you really like, it makes a difference. I got close to a teacher. It was in 8th grade finally, because I was not a good academic student for some reason, mostly just sports crazy, and all of a sudden this math teacher taught me how to be a student. And I have to say that I think it was because he was the wrestling coach, and which made me listen. And I really didn't understand that academics can be the same as athletics. When you get a win or you do something well, get your hand raised in a wrestling match, there's a lot of adrenaline. And I'd already had a lot of academic grades up to that point in time, and I didn't really have too many good ones, if any. This teacher actually got me to have like a B. And that was the first B I had ever probably got in 8th grade. I always say this, it was almost like my hand started getting raised in class.
Yeah.
And from then on, I felt that feeling that you need to feel because you experience it, and I was a good student. And it came at a great time, because 9th grade is when you really start for your college. And had I not been around a good mentor, I probably would have went to a community college. Who knows exactly what. I probably wouldn't have got into Iowa State University, but because I did get good grades after that, it was easy to get in. And if you're a good athlete and you got a scholarship, and so you just kind of thrived off of people around you. So I think it's really crucial to look at your environment and hang around people that care for you and that are really good people, because those are what I call mentors.
Yeah. So it almost sounds like, if I could summarize it into 3 things, it would be who you surround yourself with. Maybe try to find people who you can compete against that are also performing at a high level, and then find a mentor or someone who's, maybe the best performer around you or in town.
Well, for me, it was like once I got a television set, which was, I think, the first one we ever got when I was 4. A lot of people might not understand that if you're not of age, because, TV's been around, but it wasn't around when I was born. So once I started watching television, and I was able to watch like sporting events of pros, and I'd see people of high excellence, it made a big difference to me. It gave me the motivation. It gave me the motivation to want to be somebody of some caliber. And people don't understand it because there's so much technology today that it's just everywhere for everybody. But it was pretty unique for me at that time, and I took it on.
Yeah. Was there anybody who stands out to you in particular?
Well, yeah, Mickey Mantle. But you know what? In those days, you didn't have the inside information. He's only getting the outside information. And so today, because you get so much information that, I don't know, I would have liked Mantle. There's sometimes too much flowing out today where all of a sudden, oh, well, I didn't want to know that he was out drinking beer last night, and then he was up to bat and he still hadn't sobered up. But that's what I would know today, as compared to back in the old days. You just watched him on television and he just knew he could hit home runs right-handed, you could hit home runs left-handed, he could speed around the bases, he could make catches in the outfield going frontwards, backwards, sideways. So, yeah, and that name, Mickey Mantle, it was pretty good. Yeah, I like the name even.
Yeah, I can totally respect that, because it's sometimes we get a little bit overwhelmed by, which brings me to one of my next questions. You just got back from Paris, and you got to see a lot of great wrestling going on over there. What would you say is the difference between like some of the good wrestlers that you've coached and the great ones?
You got to remember, I coached a lot of great ones.
Yeah.
But for me, I looked at every one of them as good potential, even if they didn't or weren't at the beginning. And I've seen people come a long ways. So I don't really look at people like they either have it or they don't. I look at it like, if they're around the right environment and the right atmosphere and other people that are of high level, then they have a really good shot, or a better shot, of reaching up to that high level. So for me, it's one of these things that I would say that I love to coach against people that say you either got it or you don't, because I'm going to get that kid. If he sticks with me, he'll get it and he'll have it. That doesn't mean he'll go to the highest level, but I'll tell you what, he'll have a better shot at the other ones because of attitude, because of staying current, staying up to date. Just like I went to Paris, coming back, watching the highest level of competition. And that's what you have to do. Every time you want to go to a new level, you got to find out where that highest level is already and experience that highest level. And when you experience that highest level, you're up to date. That doesn't mean it's going to be that high. In 5 years, it might be at a higher level. And that's why if you read my latest book called The Wrestling Life 2, it's not just entertainment information. There's actually real information in there that says what you have to do, kind of. And that basically means what you have to do is you have to go out of your way to go to these levels that's competing. And the thing that's interesting is the highest level you can find might be just around the corner and you can go see it, so you don't have to go very far, or you might have to travel across the world. But that highest level changes. If you don't stay in it, you'll fall behind.
That's so interesting. So when you were at the top, you're at the top of your game for quite a while. You won Olympic gold twice, right?
I actually won the World Championships and then the Olympic Games, so that's 2 gold medals at the world level. And then I coached for a lot longer than I wrestled. It was one of these things that I was coaching 3 Olympic teams, coached, I believe, like 7 world teams, maybe 9 World Cup teams. And these are teams against teams, best top teams in the world, in which we actually have the World Cup coming to Iowa City, Iowa in April of 2018. It's supposed to be the top 8 teams from the World Championship the year before. But Iran didn't quite make the top 8 this year, which is really surprising. And we want to get Iran here because they have unique fans. They have a lot of fans in the United States. And they actually will be a part of the tournament that fans can enjoy because they're kind of fanatical when it comes to cheering and showing you really how to be a fan, if you want to be a fanatical fan. And so we hope to get them here as well in Carver Hawkeye next April. But, of course, Russia will be here, and the United States will be here, and all those good teams. But that's down the road a little bit.
Yeah. What excites you the most about going to these world championships?
Oh, I think it's just, I'm not a guy that just watches the 6 minutes that they're out there on the mat. I'm the guy that hones in on some of the best that are there, or unique ones, or ones that you heard about, or ones that's already has a lot of credentials, and I kind of spy on them. I mean, for me to get good, when I was a wrestler coming out of college, I was sent with a world team as an alternate to really kind of carry their bags and so on and work out with them. But when I went to the World Championships, I had this pass that got me everywhere. And my goal was to be a world champion, Olympic champion. And so when guys would come off, I'd watch them during their events. But before they would come to their events, I'd pick a unique guy and watch him warm up. Then I'd watch him during the event. Then I'd follow him to his locker room or wherever he went afterwards, whether he won or lost. I kind of picked and chose which one I wanted to go after and watch. And I learned from a lot from what their actions, and that really helped me. So I'm not just going to the World Championship to watch the wrestling. I watch the fans, I watch the event, I see how the event's filled up. There's more to it than what you think, and that's where a lot of people kind of fall short. It's like taking your team to a national tournament, and in a college situation, if it's the first time you've ever entered that arena, there's something about it that people kind of get a little bit maybe uptight or too excited. And so, like, even if I hadn't visited that arena before, I would make sure my team the night before or 2 days before would be able to go and have a walkthrough and things like that. So it's just the environment you want it to be familiar with everything and not something new, because you always hear about the stage fright. Mm-hmm. And it happens. It happens in the state tournament in Iowa, not University of Iowa, but in Des Moines, Iowa, Wells Fargo Arena, and if somebody hasn't been there before, it's like wow, it's sold out and it's full of people, and you just got to get a little bit used to what you want to do in terms of the level of competition you want to be in.
How do I say this? How do you practice being on that type of stage, or maybe walking through the competition before you have the opportunity to step onto the mat?
Well, hopefully you've already trained with people of high magnitude. So, for an example, in college, when you're a college competitor, if you have a club member that's already graduated and that's continuing to train and it's already been to a World Cup or already been to a world event or already is a world champion or already even the coach, like when I came here from Iowa State, I'm an Olympic and world champion. I mean, right away there's an aura about you, and they are the people that haven't been around you before. It's like they're a little timid. It kind of holds them back, and that's what competition is. And so the more you can rub shoulders with people of high level achievements and ability, pretty soon it becomes a little bit more normal, and you don't get this like scaredness, or you don't get this fright. You just say, hey, I practice with this guy. This guy's just like everybody else, but he might be a little better, but he's human. He's not a robot. He's not a freak. He's actually like me. And so I think that's the thing. And a lot of it's just in the mind and attitude, and the coaches and people, you just got to set that type of environment up to where you can not get stage fright because you've already been through it, because you're hanging around the guy and he's just normal.
Yeah. It almost sounds like you try to submerge them in that type of environment, or people that have already been there, so that way when they get put in that situation, they're already mentally prepared.
Well, you got to be comfortable from a standpoint of not scared. When you're scared, you usually don't perform as well. When you're confident, you usually perform well. So I call it nervous scared or nervous high. I like the nervous high. It's like you could get high on drugs, I guess, or you can get high on alcohol, or you could get high on life. So the real thing to do is to get high on life. And when you get high on life, then that's real and it's not artificial. And that's kind of the way you need to be when you compete at a high level or perform at a high level. You got to be nervous high, not nervous scared. When you're nervous scared, you usually lose.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a way to transition from the two, or from one to the other?
I think the transition is basically the day-to-day who you're rubbing shoulders with. Mm-hmm. And actually a good coach puts you in settings that will keep you down to that nervous high. So, for an example, you hear about going to Russia, and wrestling in front of this crowd that's, maybe fanatical crowd and stuff like that. You got to get on a team. You got to experience that 2 or 3 times, and you got to do it till you feel comfortable. And if every time you go somewhere and gets a visiting, see, where you want to win is in the visitors' arena when they're all rooting against you. And when you can win there, then you're going to handle pretty much any other arena. And I was able to do that early on, and that's what kind of built my name up. Because when I went to Russia, that was my first trip overseas, and it was 10,000 Russians, and it was in the middle of the winter, no heat. Pretty much, I mean, we were inside, but they didn't turn the heat on, and all the fans have these fur caps on, and it's all men, and they chant and they whistle, and you know what? That's where you want to win. And when you can learn to win under those conditions, the normal ones are pretty easy. So that's kind of been my lifestyle.
Yeah. And I would imagine that winning in that type of environment probably makes you feel pretty good afterwards too.
Well, at first, when you don't know what's going on, you think they're going to rush and kill you if you happen to win.
Yeah. Oh my.
They don't want you to win. I mean, I kind of transformed them. They started following me match to match. They really liked my style. And so they were kind of rooting for me, but they don't want me to beat one of the Russians. They still wanted me to lose, but what I didn't realize was even when I did beat some of their top Russians, that they, instead of wanting to rush me, they just wanted to applaud me.
Yeah.
They started chanting, and that's what they did. And I didn't understand them because they were in a different language, and I was thinking, my gosh, are they going to rush me and lynch me or what? And then all of a sudden, my coach said, settle down. All they're yelling is, Gable, Gable. And I didn't really understand that because they were saying Gable at the time. So, once they told me that, then I could appreciate their appreciation, and it made me feel a lot better.
Yeah, that has to be a bit of a stressful situation.
I was never scared there for a while. They were going to beat me, all 10,000 of them.
Oh my God! I don't know if you could have taken all of them.
That's what I mean. I probably wouldn't have won that one. That's why I got scared.
Right. Might have been close though. So let's talk a little bit about coaching. What do you think the biggest difference is? Because you've had a successful coaching career. What's the biggest difference between, a good college coach and somebody like you or some of the other top coaches out there?
Well, I think sometimes we as people that are in charge of groups of people have a blanket rule, and I never had that blanket rule. And the reason why I don't have a blanket rule, even though there might be some rules that are blanket, but majority of the time, by what I mean is each person is made up differently. Each person has different ways to respond. Each person wrestles differently. And instead of forcing something on them attitude-wise or wrestling-wise, I have to really kind of know what they can really do. And so I want to let them do what they can really do. At the same time, fine-tune them. If it's something that's kind of wild and crazy and still works, yeah, that's okay, but here's what the basic skills are. So I think it's more like getting to know your subject instead of just saying, okay, here's what we need to do, guys, and knowing what each athlete or each person is capable of doing best. Let him or her continue to do what they do and make it a little better if you can, and make sure what the rules of the sport are, that you make sure that they have those within their own system too, to be able to understand that, yeah, guys, in wrestling, you got to be good on your feet, and you got to be able to get off the bottom. Mm-hmm. Okay? Or in freestyle wrestling, you got to be good on your feet, and you got to be able to keep from getting turned on the bottom if you get taken down. So it's like there's similarities, but those are generalities, and then now you can break that down, and each person has their own unique way of scoring. You just add to it. Yeah. Don't take it away.
Right. It sounds like you really want to emphasize their strengths and not really try to put them in a box.
Well, that too, but even their personalities. not everybody's going to be like me. I know that because nobody was probably like me. I was crazy, fanatic, as far as like, I worked out in the morning, and I worked out at practice time, and I usually worked out again at night, whereas a lot of the guys just did one workout a day, and a lot of those guys are my roommates. Now, I was influencing them a little bit, and I didn't tell them they had to, but as they saw what I was doing, and it helped them kind of maybe work towards my way a little bit, but at the same time, I respected their way, and they did a great job. The thing about me is every place I've been in my career, it wasn't just me winning, it was the team winning too. So in high school, 2 of the 3 years we were the state championship team. I won the states, and then they also. And I think the third year that I was there, we took second. So it's the same way in college. The 3 years of eligibility that I had in college, because we only got 3 years then in high school and college, was we had 2 national championships in college, and I think we were second or third the other year. So, and then now you're going to a world level, and we didn't win the Worlds or the Olympic Games as a team, but we had 6 medals. We got second to Russia. I mean, Russia is tough to beat, even though we just beat them by 1 point, and they didn't have any champions, but they're still scoring points at every weight. They got that tradition, and I'll tell you what, if we can rest on our laurels, just coming off a world championship win at the junior level and at the senior level, then Russia's going to overtake us again. We got to celebrate a little bit, but we got to realize that this is only once every 20 years or 25 years, and otherwise they win just about every year. So they're not going to like what took place. So the coaches, the athletes, got to understand that we go back, we sit back and put our feet up. They're going back to work because they don't like getting second place. In fact, I don't think they had a team. I don't think they had an individual champion in any of the styles, female, Greco, or men's freestyle. So they're not going to be happy, and because of that, they're going to buckle down a little bit. Yeah. And I know that they peak a lot as the years go by towards the Olympic year. They peak more than we do. We get pretty high for the World Championship, but this is the first year after the Olympics, and so you're catching them at the best time to catch them to beat them because that's their lowest peaking. Well, I think we peak every year, but we should be on a peaking system that kind of has us peak a little more at the Olympics, but maybe not as low as they are. But they have a lot more people, a pool of athletes that they're counting on too, as compared to Americans. We have athletes after college, but not the number that stay in there like the Russians. So I just talked to a Russian the other day at my last at a funeral with my one of my Olympic coach out of Illinois, Bill Wick. He just passed on. Long time, great high school coach, Olympic coach for me, one of them. And I was talking. There was a Russian there that was living in the United States right now, and I talked to him a little bit, and he goes, the difference between Russian wrestling and American wrestling is you go to a tournament and you got 22 guys in a weight class, and there might be one really good wrestler in there from the United States, and then you got 21 other ones that are okay, but one really good one. You go to Russia and you get 22 wrestlers in a weight class in Russia, all 22 are really good.
Yeah.
So those numbers are something that we have to remember. So we're winning this world championship with, we set 8 guys, our top guys, and they sent their top guys of 8, or maybe not, but because it's a year right after the Olympics. But they're going to go home and they're going to have a bigger quality pool than we have right now, and we got to work on that. So yeah, we do have some depth, but we have to continue to get that depth so where we don't have just one guy at a weight class. We have maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 that are just top notch. And then I think when you have the numbers, we're going to be able to compete year to year.
Yeah. She mentioned a little bit about work ethic, and you really have like a team first type of attitude. I'm just kind of wondering where that work ethic comes from, and that team first mentality.
I'd like to say I was born into it, but I think that that might be part of it. But I just think the surroundings that I grew up in, I think I have to go back and give a lot of credit to YMCA. But I also have to give credit to my parents and their friends. and Waterloo, Iowa, because Waterloo, Iowa at the time had schools that were winning state championships, had individuals that were winning state championships, and it was not just West Waterloo where I was ended up going. It was East Waterloo, and it was Cedar Falls, and we had another school named Columbus, and they actually had some great wrestlers come out of there as well. I think Chuck Yagla's come out of there, two-time national champ, been on some world and Olympic teams, but it's one of these things that again. It's hard to say exactly why, but I really do think that when you're early, if you have good mentors from parenting, and if you think about it, you're born into the world, and people are going to influence you. Whenever you are smart enough to be able to, and you know what? You get influenced right away just on how you get treated, and you don't even know. And I don't know what that does to you or what it doesn't do to you. Depends on how you get treated. But if you get nourished every day and you get care every day when you're a kid, you might not even remember it. But there might be something as part of the mind that develops at that time that makes a difference. Who knows exactly what it is? But if people would just take responsibility of who they bring into this world, we'd have a lot of tough people out there, a lot of tough-minded, a lot of good people, and we wouldn't be battling each other. We think that we're in this type of religion or that type of religion. I mean, half the problem in the world right now is just because people are in situations that haven't had good mentors. I mean, just think about it. I'm born in Waterloo, Iowa. I got a mom and dad and a sister that are taking good care of me. They look out for me. They send me to the YMCA. They make sure that when I'm in school that that I'm getting good teachers, and they're following me and they know exactly where I'm at, and they continue to do that throughout my whole lifetime. I'm always their kids, just the way it is. All my kids, and now it's grandkids. Just think about how many people aren't born that way. I always use the example. I love this example. My mom and dad, they sent me to Y, but then they sent me to wrestling camp at different places. I mean, if you don't have any mentors, or if you have somebody that just push you out the door, or they're doing this or that, they're going to send you to terrorist camp. I mean, it's just whether you're lucky or not lucky. And I don't like luck in my life, but I happen to think that luck has played a pretty good portion of it from a mentor point of view. And I think if people just had more responsibility, we would be a lot better off.
Yeah. So it sounds like a big part of that is, you grew up with a really good family that took care of you, and you were surrounded by some really good people.
Well, you know what? I don't know how to compare it, but they were there for me always. And I know that it wasn't perfect. I mean, we had flaws. I mean, we went through a rough time, quite a few rough times, but I had that sister that was 4 years older than me. She was raped and murdered right in my own house. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so my sister, 19, when I was 15, right within a short time after I won my first state championship, my mom and dad and me were up at a fishing cabin about 2 hours away, and we rented a fishing cabin, and she was to join us, and she didn't. And a neighbor broke in, and she fought for her life to not give him what he was trying to get. And because she fought, he killed her, stabbed her, and so he went to life in the penitentiary, but he just died the other day. And the bad thing about it is, I'm not saying the bad thing about it is that in life there's principles, and I put together from this last book called Gable Trained Principles. But the first one is mentors, and I've talked a lot about that. And the third one's communication. And what's funny is, it's not really funny, but I was walking to school with this neighbor boy that I never really walked to school with before, and it was just so happens this kid who ended up breaking into her house and murdering her. But he said some things to me, and as a kid I just kind of let it go in one ear and out the other. I should have actually, if I would have been a better communicator, I would have went home that night and told my mom and dad about what this kid had said. And he said some things about my sister, and they weren't good, but I just I just didn't know how to take it, and I kept it inside. It could have been a difference whether I could have saved her life, maybe, but you got to learn from that too. And so, yeah, now I'm a better communicator, and now I'm trying to be good mentors for a lot of people, and those types of things. So you got to move forward in the best way you can, and that was tough for our family, plus my mom and dad, and we I think that's one of the reasons why we all made it from then on, is because we were going to fall apart, and we decided that we were going to be more dedicated to whatever we were going to be in life. And so I'm sure it's helped me at the highest levels of being more successful.
Yeah. No, I can't imagine what that's like. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so, actually, it was so much easier for me to handle than a mom and dad. And I understand that now that I'm a mom and dad, and I'm even a grandpa now. So 12 times over. So I look now, and I can see why it was going to drive my mom and dad apart. And that's where I really helped out them, because they had already helped me out for the first 14 years of my life. And because I was well mentored, I was able to step up at that time and mentor them. So I became their mentor. And that's what made the difference, to keep them together.
That's a hell of a responsibility for a 15-year-old kid, or 14?
15.
15?
Yeah.
Wow, that in an odd way, that kind of leads to my next set of questions.
All right.
So when you're faced with a challenge or an obstacle, whether that be in life or wrestling, riding, how do you overcome that obstacle, or what do you do?
Well, it's pretty obvious. It's called adversity, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So it's another one of these skills here. At first, I used to define adversity is you either take it on or it takes you on. And I kept that for quite a while, that definition. But then I realized there really is no or in adversity. Adversity, you take it on. Because when you start putting in an or there, that means it could go either way. It's got to go one way, the right way. And so adversity, you take it on. It's that simple. Easier said than done when it's something like what we just talked about. Or, if you go 7 years without a loss in a wrestling match and you have a loss, it wasn't that easy just to go and continue to win. Or if you go 10 years without a loss as a coach in national titles and you lose, it hits you hard. But because you have that philosophy, you straighten yourself out. And it's not that easy, because you got to go back and you kind of look over all the time periods that took you to get there, and you'll find out that you did a lot of things that you shouldn't have done, or you should have done a little differently. And that makes a big difference, and especially when you have a long period of time. And so I'll give you another example about what I mean there, because this is a really good point. Let's take the team loss of going for 10 straight when I was a Hawkeye coach. It took a while, but after going back and going over it day to day, and all of a sudden I realized it didn't happen just within that month or that year. It started happening like 5 years ahead of that. And yet we won the national title. We won it, and then we lost it. I was starting to let up, and it took 5 years to lose a national title. And it's because you had something built really good, and it just didn't crumble when you did it the right way. So then, because it didn't crumble, I was still up there, and I figured we'd win it right away. But because it took a long time to get to that one, because I could see some deficiencies 4 or 5 years earlier, things I should have done and I didn't do, it took us 5 years to get back on top. Even though we were second twice and third twice, it's like, wow. Or third once and sixth once. But it's like, again, in the last principle in this Gable train thing, it says the longer, the longer. And so it's like the longer you do something and you don't do something about it, the longer it's going to take to get back up there. Or the longer you do something well or good. And so it kind of works both ways. And that's why it just didn't crumble, and I was still winning. And that's why it just didn't come back like I wanted to come back. And so you might get lucky and it might come back and win, but then you might lose the next year, just because you got to be real stable in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's almost like that saying, you learn more when you lose than you do from when you win.
I might have to argue with you that one.
Okay.
Only when you do it over a long period of time. So by that I mean I really don't like adversity. I try to keep it off my life, keep it out of my life. I like to win a lot, and I like to be successful, but I like to keep it in perspective from a standpoint that I'll still want to continue to build from that win instead of just live off that win. And so, like right now, the United States just won the World Championships in freestyle wrestling. And it's the first time since 95. So that's 15, it's 5 and it's 23 years, 22 years. And so it's like if they actually build themselves from here, they'll be in contention and start a streak, maybe. They got a streak going now, right now, 1. So if they live off it, Russians will move right back in and take it away from us. But it's something that you use for momentum. And so it's like me, when I was actually celebrating too much, not so much as an athlete, but as a coach, I was not thinking about, okay, I had another coach that he needed some straightening out a little bit. And I just let him get away with it. Why? Because we're winning, you know. I should have been straightening him out, and then we might have still be winning. And that includes me. I mean, I'm one of the coaches. And what was I doing? I was partying a little bit too much myself and celebrating. And so I should have kept things in perspective. I had a wife and 4 daughters at home. You know, it's after a full day, it's time to go home. You don't have to stop by the bar. You know, it's just, or maybe too many times.
Right.
So whatever.
Yeah. So if somebody comes up to you and they ask, hey, coach, you know, struggling with this obstacle, you know, or you know, I faced adversity and I didn't get the result that I wanted. I'm trying to learn from it. How do I bounce back?
You got to do some more research. You don't just give up and you say, you know, well, I did this and I didn't get the result, or that's because that's too easy. You got to find another answer. You got to do some more homework, do some more research. You have to redo it again until it becomes like second nature, till you really understand it. I mean, who knows what the highest level out there, who the best people are? I mean, the only way you can do is do a lot of research and find out. It's one of these things that even if it doesn't come, but you have to stick with it. The day you give up, and I do not like the word quit, but when you start giving up or quitting, you have no chance. You just need to be smarter. I love hard work, but I love smart work. And when you combine them both, you got the best chance. Because I used to just work hard. And when people ask me, if you had to do it all over again, how would you do it? I always say, I'd be a little smarter. But you know what? You're only as smart as the current level of what the top excellence is out there. And if you know that, then you're doing pretty well. Somebody in the world someplace is coming up with a new invention, whether it's a new takedown or whether it's something that puts somebody somewhere in the moon or whatever. And if you don't keep up with it, you fall behind the other countries or the other individuals. So you got to stay current. You know, as a coach, you got to know your sport. You got to know your subjects. So I guess it's your subject and your subjects. You know, and so it's just year to year you get a little bit smarter. You start cutting corners. And again, this second book, it's not just entertainment, which the first one is. It's knowledge. It kind of tells you I give you year by year of what I've done with my life. And that's why you'll see why it's not easy to be good, but it really is. Just simply going to certain events to stay current, or to go to whatever you need to do in your profession or your life. And and one of the last things I want to talk about here is just the hard part is what's called a family commitment. And I had that in my life. And once my sister died, I really had it. She was there, but it just all centered around me, it seemed like. And that kind of kept my mom and dad together. But I really think if you want to go to really high levels in your profession, that you have to have family commitment too, not just yourself, because it takes more than just the 8 hours a day. It's almost a 24-hour a day type of involvement. But if you do it well, you can peak well. You can have some great times. You can have some great times together. It doesn't have to be just about your profession. It can be about, and what I'm really good at, and that's on there too, the second at the bottom, it's called recovery. I'm really good at recovery. So, like right now, me and you are talking. I tell you what, when I get done today, it's getting towards the end of the day right now. I'm going to be hitting a good workout.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be hitting a sauna. And I'm going to be thinking, I'm going to be working out for my health, and I'm going to be sitting in there thinking, sweating. And, it doesn't have to be just you. It can be your family. Get together. So, if you can get your family on board with what you do, and you can get on board with what they do, then you really have a better chance to be at that highest level of performance. And I think that's what life's about.
Yeah, and it probably, I mean, you get people that you really care about that can enjoy things with you, and it kind of, I mean,
that's what the book one did for me. Book one, I mean, I had no idea my daughters what they thought of me, and I mean, I know they liked me. I think they did.
Hopefully,
but in this book, I had a chapter on each one of them, and they got a chance to express themselves. And boy, did I learn a lot about them and me. And with some issues that we've had, we both kind of solved issues. So I tell you what, it was pretty amazing what this book did for me. Even though I thought I was going to do a lot for a lot of people, it made me want to come back and write book two just because of solving issues in my life. One of them that really was my last daughter was actually one that I just hadn't we just hadn't really pointed to what the issue was in our life. But that book one solved it, and we're better off now. So that's pretty amazing.
So to help families get together, you suggest that they write a book and share their opinions of each other?
I would think it could be good, but you better look at your family first.
Yeah.
And find out whether it's going to go in the wrong direction. If you have a pretty darn good family your whole life, then them books are going to work out. If there's been a lot of problems, I don't know if I recommend it, because there might be some more problems. So that's a tough question.
Yeah. So as we're wrapping up the main part of the interview, what's next after book two?
I'm not done with book two. I'm not done with book one. It's still going. It's not. You got to remember, I'm not a book guy. Mm-hmm. That wasn't my profession. Just so happens my life has been successful quite a bit, and people like to want to know why, how, when, stuff like that. And if you write it in an entertaining fashion, some people just like it for entertainment. So what's next is really me just continuing to be me, making more accomplishments. Mm-hmm. And then I'll have enough information to go to a book. I got more enough than for now too, but I do have a book that's outdated. It's a technical book, mm-hmm. and it's more of a coaching philosophy book by Human Kinetics Publishing that is 20 years old now, believe it or not. And see, that's one thing. While I was a coach, I never did a lot of things. I never went out and spoke a lot, except for to my own team members and my fans. And so now that I'm out of that, I'm staying close to my sport by being able to speak, being able to write books, doing a lot of that stuff. I didn't do all that stuff. So my focus, which is actually number 5 here on the Gable Training Principles, was on where it was supposed to be. I wasn't too sidetracked. Yeah. And that's another reason why I stayed within the top levels of performance. I wasn't all over the place. Yeah. And again, the same way. I'm kind of focused on certain things, mostly promotion with the sport of wrestling, and continuing to have a great family life. So staying focused on those two things are kind of the same thing I've always done, except I don't have 40 wrestlers that I have to be responsible for every day. That doesn't mean I still don't know a lot about the sport, because I study it and I still go to all the events, not all of them. I don't go to everyday practice. I can control my life a little bit better. But, when you do things over time at a high level, you get a lot of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that.
So this gets us to some of the more rapid-fire, quick questions that I wrap up these interviews with that really kind of help the audience figure out, like, what types of things influence your life that maybe they can take away and apply to their own. So what does your daily routine look like right now?
Well, when you're in a sport like wrestling and you're doing what you think you should do at that particular time, as compared to today. Today you have a lot better chance of long-term survival.
Yeah.
As compared to when I grew up, because you got good shoes, you got smart, a lot more smarts. I mean, when I was growing up, there was like you didn't drink water because that was a sign of weakness during a practice. Now you drink water to keep yourself learning and out there on the mat instead of sitting against the wall. So it's science. And so today, I get up. I almost have something to do every day, so that motivates me. But I usually just kind of get out of bed, kind of hurting a little bit, maybe. But if I can get to my hot tub real quick, which I have one right outside here,
yeah,
then I'm going to sit in that hot tub. I'm going to shower, sit in the hot tub, shower, sit in the sauna, shower in the terms of about 45 minutes. And then I feel really good, clean up. So then go about my day. I got this little cabin in my backyard. Good exercise facility. It's got a good office here, and I got a lot of acres out here. I can see a lot of animals and not just wrestlers, but so I can do a lot of things, and I have I'm into a little bit of technology, not a lot, but I keep up with that somewhat. Spend a lot of time here in my backyard, or if I'm traveling, which I just soon spend my time in the backyard. I got two fishing cabins and this cabin, so we get together with family, and all my grandkids like to fish sometimes. But okay, so by the time go about my day, I still work during the days, and just mostly at home or on the road, and then by the middle of the afternoon, late afternoon, like right now, when you leave, I'm going to get a good workout in.
Yeah.
Now, when I work out now, it isn't kind of to kill myself, because my goal before was to pass out. Work so hard I'd pass out. It's kind of crazy, but that's how you win world and Olympic championships, working really hard. But now it's not so smart, but especially at my age, so now I'm just for health.
Yeah.
And I get a good workout, but I warm up really good, and I go like heck, either on a bike or airdyne, and I also combine it with strength training. So good cardio, good strength, and I don't do it long now.
Mm-hmm.
I go short periods usually, and then I get back in my sauna.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm a sauna fanatic.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I am. And the reason why is because you can sit there, not have to do anything, and you sweat.
Mm-hmm.
When you're exercising, you sweat, but you have to do something. So you got the temperature high up, and I can really analyze my life.
Yeah.
I can think, deep thinker, a lot. That's really helped me, because my whole life, after a wrestling practice, I always found some place to be able to just sweat, and maybe for a half hour, and then I go into like cold plunges or cold showers, because nowadays you're more scientific. I mean, back in the old days when you got injured, the first thing you did was put yourself in a hot like whirlpool, and now the first thing you do is ice. So it's just the opposite. So that's what's the difference in science and what's current today. And you know what? Who knows what's going to be like next year, and the following year, in 20 years. So we'll have things that are smarter, and as you get older, you want to stay feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
And I stay feeling good by not abusing myself to the point where you're really sore, or it's just like social.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go out and drink a lot of beer, you're probably going to get used to it and don't feel bad, but you're really doing yourself probably some harm.
Yeah.
And so I actually got in this book here. It's called Know Your Limits. And you can read about that. And so I don't think I've had more than, I know I haven't. I've had not more than 2 beers since 1986.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a day. In a day.
In a day.
Yeah. So, it's like, you really can't get sick from there. I don't think it's going to be bad for you, they say. So, you make adjustments. And so I like to be done with I like to have family time, especially at night.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm around my wife quite a bit of the day anyway, so it's kind of all day. But right now, she happens to be gone. I really don't like it. I'd rather be with her.
Yep.
I don't like to miss a day. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah. So when you're working out, is there a specific exercise that you try to hit every day or every time you work out?
Most of when I grew up, and even now, if you look around the corner, I got a chin bar on the door.
Mm-hmm.
So before I used to do a lot of chins. Now I do a lot of stretching on it, but I still do chins on it. But mostly I like bicycling, but I like the kind that you don't get injured in. So it's mostly stationary. I like the Airdyne. I really like the Airdyne a lot, where you get your arms and legs go together. And but I also like strength too. So I combine weights, but not real heavy. But the better I feel, the more heavy I will do. But I want to keep control to where I don't get injured. I really am tired of being injured in my life.
Yeah.
Being a wrestler, you get a lot of injuries, just little aches and pains, not necessarily bad ones, but I would say that I like feeling good.
Yeah.
And so I kind of work out based on how I feel.
What would you say is the most impactful book that you've read?
The Heart of a Champion by Bob Richards. He was in 1956, I think, pole vault champion. First person ever on the Wheaties box. He's still alive, and he's a minister. And the book is about historic sports stories. First 4-minute mile.
Mm-hmm.
He describes all those things in unbelievable manner. And I think that's where I wanted to wrestle till I passed out, stuff like that. But it's also in a really good way of life living, because he was a pastor. He talks a lot about your faith. I don't think I've ever had an issue or a problem where I didn't go to that book and I found an answer close by. I mean, you can do the same with the Bible maybe, but I've always had harder time interpreting as compared to him breaking it down in easier reading form.
Mm-hmm.
So that book probably, I picked the guy. He came to our school when I was a 10th grader. I just had won a state championship. Got that book, and within a month my sister was murdered. And so not only was I using it just to help motivate me for being an athlete, but all of a sudden it helped me recover from that loss. And so it was kind of eerie that I got that book when I got it. So, but I still have it. And there's not a page there that doesn't just pull out, because the binding's all gone and everything. But actually, I'm hoping that people say Gable's a Wrestling Life 1 or Gable's a Wrestling Life 2 was the book.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. That's kind of, I patterned these books, little short stories, after that book.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a difference. And you have something there that when you need it, you can go. You know where to go. You don't have to go to the counselor or whatever. But you might.
Yeah.
But if you have something like that, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, that book is the Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. You familiar with that?
I can't believe you said The Alchemist.
Why is that?
Because there's a story behind that.
Really?
Yeah. There's a so anyway, we got this poster of me from the Olympic Games, and it has on there Dan Gable, Olympic champion. And then at the bottom it says The Alchemist. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it says Alchemist.
Yeah.
And ASICS, who I've been working for a long time, put that on there. And he might have put something else on there too, but I knew I could understand everything else they put. It was like English. Easy for me to understand. It wasn't a tough vocabulary word. But Alchemist, I go, what is that? Mm-hmm. And all it said was, when you get touched by me, mm-hmm. I touched you. Mm-hmm. Now that means, and you'll be a gold medal winner.
Yeah.
Or whatever that means.
Yeah.
Something like that. And every time I sign that poster, I go over to that word Alchemist and I underline it for the person. And they always ask me, why did you do that? What is that? And then I tell them, it's going to mean something in your life because of this meeting between me and you.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that maybe I won't win a gold medal, but maybe this episode will go.
No,
gold.
you don't have to win a gold medal, but this might take you to a new level of experience. Like you said, you're still kind of you're not wavering, but you're not settled yet.
No.
You're not a wrestling coach. You're not. You're what do you call yourself?
Serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, serial entrepreneur. So, that's pretty cool. But and I don't know what you go from there.
Yeah.
But maybe you will now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If someone wants to find your book, where would they find it at?
Well, you can. University of Iowa Press is in Iowa City. Actually, you can order from them, but I think the easiest way is to go to Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
They're on there. It's under the Midwest U.S. biographies. I want to get it out there further. And again, it's going to take me to go out and make it work. So I've been going to book signings in Iowa, but I got to go to some in California. I got to go to New York. Then you spread the better word of wrestling and whatever this book is. But that's probably, and actually Barnes and Noble has them. Most Barnes and Noble.
Cool.
And they're all over.
Well, Coach, I want to say thank you for taking the time to show up on our podcast today. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with as we sign out?
Well, I think I said a lot. In fact, I said so much you might want to listen to it twice, because, like I said, on that book the Heart of a Champion book, every page has been read so many times. They're underlined with highlighters, and all the glue is gone. Now, is it because I just set it there and never opened it? No, it's because I opened it every day,
mm-hmm.
and I studied it. It's like anything else. So it's kind of like the dedication, what's needed to. If you got any goals, get some goals, and if you don't, then you better listen to this podcast.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Formula. If you'd like to find out more about Dan's book tour that he has coming up, go ahead and head over to his Facebook page. That's just Dan Gable, DanGable, or head over to Amazon and check out his books, A Wrestling Life and A Wrestling Life 2. I recently picked up Wrestling Life 2, and I'm probably about a third of the way, halfway through it, and I've really enjoyed it so far. There's a lot of good stuff in there, so I highly, highly recommend it. Now, the short message that, or my thoughts from some of the stuff that we talked about in this episode, specifically when Dan was talking about, his sister, what happened to her. I just have a short message I'd like to leave everyone, and that is, This made me really think about how much I love my family and how much they mean to me. So if everyone could, after you're done listening to this, pick up your phone and call someone in your family that maybe hasn't heard it in a while, hasn't heard how much that you care in a while, and just call them up and tell them that you love them and that you're grateful for them. Because we can leave this world at any moment, and it's better to share those things when you have the opportunity. Now I'd like to leave you with one quick quote from somebody that most people know that I follow quite a bit, and that's a quote from Tim Ferriss. You are not alone, and you are better than you think. So go out there and make a positive impact on somebody's life today. Tell them how much you care about them. Tell them how grateful you are for them. Until next time, thank you for tuning in to The Formula, and I look forward to you coming back next week.